Imagine this. It's 1950, and your grandma's in the kitchen whipping up the flakiest pie crust you've ever seen. The secret? Not butter, not oil, lard. Fast forward a few decades, and suddenly lard was treated like toxic waste. Fast forward again, and now foodies and chefs are calling it a superior fat. What happened? How did something once loved, then loathed, make a greasy comeback? Let's uncover the strange rise, fall, and resurrection of lard, right here on History of Food. Before butter stole the show, lard was the undisputed king of the kitchen. For centuries, pork fat was the go-to cooking fat for just about everything: frying, baking, roasting, you name it. It made pastries flakier, biscuits lighter, and fried chicken crispier. In the 1800s, lard was a household essential. People didn't just buy it, they rendered it themselves. Nothing went to waste. After butchering a pig, the leftover fat was melted down and stored in jars for future use. It was cheap, versatile, and reliable. Even big brands like Procter & Gamble built their empires on lard. Well, sort of. They initially made soap using animal fats before moving into food products. Lard was so ingrained in culture that it wasn't just cooking fat, it was survival. So how did this beloved kitchen staple go from comfort food hero to public enemy number one? Enter the early 20th century, the dawn of food marketing and industrial food science. Around this time, something revolutionary hit the shelves: vegetable shortening. In 1911, Procter & Gamble introduced Crisco, a product made from hydrogenated cottonseed oil. It looked like lard, cooked like lard, and was marketed as a cleaner, healthier, and modern alternative. And it worked brilliantly. Housewives swapped their jars of pig fat for the sleek blue tins of Crisco. Then came the nutrition panic of the mid-20th century. Doctors and dietitians began blaming saturated fats, like lard, for rising rates of heart disease. The low-fat era was born. Butter, lard, and anything with animal fat became public enemies. Vegetable oils and margarine took the crown as the healthy fats. It didn't help that lard started sounding gross to modern ears. Vegetable shortening just sounded cleaner. And thanks to marketing, vegetable became synonymous with healthy, even if the stuff was chemically altered and full of trans fats. So by the 1970s, lard was officially out. It wasn't just unfashionable, it was shamed. For decades, lard was the punchline of every food joke. Calling something lardy meant it was unhealthy, indulgent, or just plain disgusting. TV ads and health magazines painted animal fats as ticking time bombs. Restaurants and home cooks ditched it completely. Shortening and vegetable oil became the new kitchen staples. People even started to believe that anything fried in lard would instantly clog their arteries. But here's the twist. While everyone was running from lard, the new healthy alternatives weren't exactly innocent. When scientists began studying hydrogenation, the process that turned vegetable oil into solid shortening, they discovered something alarming: trans fats. Trans fats, it turned out, were far worse for the heart than natural animal fats like lard. They increased bad cholesterol, lowered good cholesterol, and led to a spike in heart disease. By the early 2000s, governments and health organizations were calling for a trans fat ban. Suddenly, all those heart-healthy oils didn't look so heart-healthy anymore. Meanwhile, food historians and chefs began to take another look at the villainized fats of the past. And what did they find? Lard wasn't the devil. It had just been misunderstood. Around the same time the trans fat scandal broke, a new food movement was rising: the farm-to-table and nose-to-tail revolution. People started caring about traditional ingredients, natural fats, and whole animal cooking. Chefs rediscovered lard's magic. They realized that it gave fried foods that perfect golden crunch, made pastries unbelievably flaky, and added richness without the greasy aftertaste of shortening. Bakers started bragging about using real lard again. Artisan brands popped up selling small-batch pasture-raised pork lard, rebranded with phrases like heritage fat and naturally rendered. Suddenly, something that had once been a sign of poverty was now gourmet. And the best part? Science finally caught up. Modern studies found that lard, especially from pasture-raised pigs, actually contains less saturated fat and more monounsaturated fat, the same kind found in olive oil, than people thought. Basically, Grandma was right all along. Here's a delicious truth. Not all fats are created equal. Lard has a relatively neutral flavor, but a high smoke point, meaning it's great for frying without burning. It also contains natural compounds that give pastries a light, crisp texture that butter just can't replicate. That's why pie crusts made with lard are legendary. They're tender and flaky, with that perfect balance of richness and airiness. Even Michelin-starred chefs have started using lard again, not as a gimmick, but because it works. It's a reminder that sometimes the old ways were the best. Fun fact: you've probably eaten lard recently without realizing it. Some traditional cuisines never stopped using it. Mexican refried beans, British mince pies, and Chinese mooncakes all traditionally rely on lard for texture and flavor. And get this, NASA once experimented with lard as a potential rocket fuel additive. So yes, the same stuff that makes Grandma's pie crust flaky could, theoretically, launch a spaceship. Talk about versatility. Today, lard is back, but in a much different form. Instead of the industrial bleached stuff that once lined grocery shelves, modern lard is often unprocessed, pure, and sourced from pigs raised on pasture. It's showing up in bakeries, gourmet restaurants, and even health-conscious cookbooks. Keto and paleo diets have embraced it for its high fat content and minimal processing. But this revival isn't about nostalgia alone. It's about flavor, sustainability, and unlearning decades of food fear. Using lard means using all parts of the animal, which reduces waste and honors the old-school cooking philosophy of nothing goes to waste. Here's the twist. For decades, we feared fat, and it made us sicker. When people ditched natural fats like lard and butter for low-fat processed foods, obesity and heart disease rates actually climbed. Why? Because those low-fat foods were pumped full of sugar and artificial additives to make them taste good. We didn't just replace fat. We replaced flavor, balance, and common sense. Now, science and chefs alike are bringing back the truth. Fat isn't the enemy, bad fat is. And lard, the fat we spent half a century demonizing, turns out to be one of the good guys. So what's the moral of the story? Lard didn't change. We did. Our perception of food swung like a pendulum, from fear to obsession, and finally back to appreciation. Lard isn't a miracle food or a villain. It's just a reminder that food trends come and go, but flavor never lies. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution.